In the news tonight, 2 new cases. One needs further investigation. Movement restrictions to become stringent. And Fijians urged to comply.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nadi.
Bulabinaka, Fiji. One of 2 new cases of COVID-19 announced today needs further investigation. A 53-year-old caretaker of the Ra Provincial Office has tested positive with no clear context as yet. The other is a 25-year-old man who stayed at the house of the woman in Makoi who was already infected. Kelly Vadala reports.
One of 2 latest positive cases is of concern as it will require additional investigation into his context to determine if he is linked to the other active COVID cases.
He has been moved securely to the isolation ward at Lotok Hospital as per our standard operating procedure. First of all, I'd like to thank this Fijian. He felt symptoms, he reported them. That was the exact right thing for him to do.
The second case was a close contact of the Makoi woman.
He stayed in Makoi from the 12th to the 19th of April, and then he went to Vunimonanausori, where he was retrieved and swabbed. We have 4 teams facilitating contact tracing based on his travel history. He has been securely transferred to an isolation unit in Doloisuva, and his primary contacts are also quarantined in Doloisuva.
With these latest cases, there are now 44 active cases in isolation. 5 are older border quarantine cases that were announced before Sunday, April 18th. 13 are recently announced border quarantine cases. 25 are locally transmitted cases, and there's 1 currently under investigation.
The recent 2 cases now brings Fiji's positive COVID-19 cases to 111 since our first case was detected on 19th March 2020. There are 25 locally transmitted cases. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
And we now join Kelly Vadala live. Kelly, with the new cases just mentioned, what tracing efforts are underway tonight?
Yes, Edwin, as announced this evening, there are new containment zones, and these are the Neserelangi village, Nanukuloa and Ndokone Vatu has been established as new containment zones by police officers. All families living within these areas have been told to stay home and also to stay safe until further notice. Also, there's an area that also has been put on alert, which is the Raki area, for any potential COVID-19 symptoms. So Fijians can actually visit health centers that are actually located around these areas. More intense screening will be carried out if anyone feels like they have the COVID-19 symptoms potentially. They can call 158 to get in contact with the health ministry. They will come to your homes and also check you. Thanks, Edwin.
Naka Kelly. The Health Ministry is strengthening movement restrictions in containment areas from today. Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong says all passes to facilitate movement in containment zones will be issued by the ministry. Josiah Nanunga reports.
Fijians have had ample time to return to where they live, and so movement restrictions will become tougher with the Health Ministry approval needed to cross containment zones.
These will be reserved for medical emergencies and other exceptional circumstances, including funeral arrangements. The list of dialysis patients is also at the border with the police teams. However, we strongly encourage these patients to enter and stay within lockdown for the next 14 days.
Dr. Fong says exchange of food and medical supplies can be facilitated at the border checkpoints.
The exchange of food and medicine supply can be facilitated at the border, provided delivery arrangements to the border, and from the border to the recipient is organized by the requesting party.
He maintains that we still can't afford to close down banks, supermarkets and pharmacies, as people need to acquire essentials such as food and medicines. Jose Nanunga, FBC News.
And B1617 has killed 200,000 people in India, where the new strain of COVID-19 emerged. For more details on this variant, we now join Josiah Nanunga.
Edwin, this new COVID-19 variant known as B1617, or the Indian variant, was detected in India late last month. And right now, experts are concerned as the variant could be more transmissible or even could outweigh the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine. According to information and statistics collated or put together by the Indian government, at this stage they are still unsure or unclear with its effects when compared to other forms of the virus. Right now, the virus was formed because two mutations have come together to affect cells and also weaken the immune system. Right now, with reports coming in from India, we can tell that it is more severe, because we can confirm now that over 280,000 cases of COVID-19 can be confirmed daily in India, and over 1,000 death cases in a day. Now that's massive. That is a clear indication of what could happen here in Fiji if we are not careful. Hence, Fijians are continue to be reminded at all times, please adhere and strictly follow the COVID-19 safety measures initiated by the Health Ministry. Edwin.
Nakachosaya, authorities say mandating laws and restrictions will be ineffective if people don't follow COVID-safe measures. Health Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong says the next 2 weeks will define the next 2 months for Fiji and is calling on every Fijian to behave as if they have the disease. Kritika Kumar reports.
Medical authorities say there is no need for further action by law enforcement agencies because the responsibility lies with every citizen.
Even if we are not showing any symptoms of the virus, we need to behave as if we got COVID. By doing so, and thereby wearing masks, staying at home and turning on your Care Fiji app, you'll be saving lives.
Dr. James Fong says Fijians should think of their lives and their loved ones because no one is safe until all cases are found and isolated.
With every new case, this crisis brings on a new, more personal meaning for more Fijians. Not only for Fijian members, but for neighbors and for entire communities.
He adds we may have let our guard down and now we must all bear the consequences. Non-essential businesses should close down and Fijians should avoid all close contact.
You should not take takis, mbilos or cigarettes. You should not share takis, mbilos or cigarette. Any person-to-person interaction, even a maskless conversation can put you at risk. And please, download Care Fiji. Keep it switched on when you are in a public place.
The ministry has called on Fijians to stay home and always wear masks when going out. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
And now we've heard that crossing containment zones will be a lot more stricter. And we join Christiana Uluwai live. Christiana, how is the ministry going to deal with people wanting passes to cross containment zones?
Edwin, the Health Ministry made it very loud and clear that passes will only be given to people who are traveling for emergency health crisis or for funeral purposes occasionally. And this evening, as you can clearly see behind me, people are still crowding up here at the Health Ministry's headquarters, trying to get their hands on the passes. But the Permanent Secretary for Health says that he will not hesitate to turn these people away if they are traveling for reasons other than the ones that I've mentioned. And once again, they're pleading with members of the public to stop asking for passes unless and until they absolutely need it.
Full of exposure for Fiji tonight.
Edwin, they assume that the virus is now all over Viti Levu, and hence they've set up screening teams all across Viti Levu. But so far, this is a virus that they have established to be 20 to 30% more contagious than the variant that we dealt with last year. And as such, people cannot afford to be complacent at this stage. And once again, members of the public are advised to practice physical distancing, avoid social gathering, wash your hands, wear your masks, and avoid unnecessary movement for at least the next 2 weeks to help the Health Ministry contain this virus. Edwin.
Minaka Christiana, 4 new gene expert testing machines have been received by the Health Ministry. The machines arrived last night in the midst of ramped up COVID-19 testing as Fiji records multiple cases daily and hundreds of swabs are taken. Apanisa Wangerandovu reports.
These kits allow for more efficient and reliable results, a vital tool for detecting the new variant transmitting in Fiji.
So they will be able to increase the capacity for testing. And this is very important, especially for being able to do tests for those who are in our border quarantine, and also for those in the community. Yes.
UNICEF Pacific representative Sheldon Yat says the machine will ease the capacity of testing at Fiji Center for Disease Control.
Each machine can do 4 tests in 45 minutes, so that really ramps up very quickly the testing capacity of the ministry.
Testing will now also be carried out in Lautoka and Lambasa, easing the load on lab teams in the capital.
And the group here at Fiji CDC have been working really hard. Thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing. And with Lautoka and Lambasa having the ability now to do gene expert testing, that we can be able to share the machines out and reduce the load.
The ministry also received 9 RNA kits used to specifically detect virus particles in human clinical swabs, in this case the COVID-19 virus. Apeniswan Grandobu, FBC News.
Up ahead, mask disposal worries. And New Zealand offers help. Welcome back. The United Nations and other international agencies, they are ready to support the government in efforts to stomp out COVID-19 from Fiji entirely. UN Resident Coordinator Sanaka Samharasena says with the B1617 variant now in Fiji, they are liaising with the World Health Organization, Unicef and the Ministry of Health on how best to help. Koreitandudala reports the UN, through the World Health Organization, is also ready to provide equipment.
The UN resident coordinator, while commanding Fiji's contact tracing and containment efforts, says they are on standby to help.
The question is not so much about whether we are able to get ventilators that quickly. We can, if it's needed.
The ministry does have ventilators already in hospitals and some in reserve. And WHO do have a very marginal stock as well that we've kept in reserve.
While it is important that the Ministry of Health have the capacity to handle the situation, the UN is also ensuring that the vaccine under the COVAX facility arrives by next week.
As you are aware, the plan is to bring a minimum of number of doses to cover 20% of the population.
And we need the community for this. When we say stay at home, it means stay at home. When we say wear masks, it does mean wear masks.
A shipment of personal protective equipment is expected in the next 10 days to boost the protection of frontline workers. Koreitandulala, FBC News.
Face masks are our biggest asset in fighting the pandemic, but the Suva City Council has warned of potential environmental threats. Special Administrators Chair Isikeliti Kunduandua says on Monday, workers collected disposable masks from the Nambukulo Creek. Kritika Kumar reports these masks are plastic products that cannot be readily biodegraded.
With majority of the Fijians now wearing face masks, people need to be aware of the proper ways to dispose them.
Which is quite sad is now we have seen, as yesterday, people are disposing their mask, throwing them around Suva.
Isikeliti Kunduandua says Fijians should be more responsible as they do not want to face situations similar to used diapers being disposed of irresponsibly.
Because we don't want to have the incident where challenges with the diapers, now we don't want the mask to be thrown carelessly.
Environment Minister Dr. Mahendra Reddy says poor disposal of face masks could also clog up the waterways.
Some of the face masks are also made out of materials which will take a long time for it to degenerate and decompose.
If not disposed of or recycled, like other plastic waste, disposable masks can end up in environment, freshwater systems and oceans. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The Consumer Council of Fiji has received numerous complaints regarding the quality of personal protective equipment produced and sold by some businesses. Chief Executive Seema Shandil says this includes face masks, hand sanitizers and gloves as well as disinfectants. Clady Vadala reports.
A recent survey found huge disparities in the prices and the quality of these items.
We saw that one pharmacy was retailing a pack of 50 disposable masks at $75, whilst the other was retailing the same thing $447.50. So the similar scenario is for the hand sanitizer as well. You know, when a consumer sent a photo whereby the same sanitizer, which costed around $20 something in Nosudi, was around $40 something in Suva.
In his announcement, Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says some businesses are trying to appear essential by producing these PPEs.
We got hardware shops producing masks. Where did they get the machine from? Now we got how many other manufacturers producing hand sanitizers? Where did that come from?
The Consumer Council of Fiji says it is appalled to note that some pharmacies are making as much as 100% profit from mask sales with no consideration of the severity of the virus and its impacts on Fijians. Kelly Vathala, FBC News.
New Zealand says it stands ready to continue assisting Fiji as we battle our second wave of COVID-19 infections. New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson spoke about our situation on TVNZ's Breakfast Show. He says as one of Fiji's closest allies, New Zealanders stand ready to help a nation in distress.
Look, we are supporting our friends in Fiji at a number of levels, both in terms of their COVID response, but their overall budget as well. It is concerning and worrying. They've taken pretty drastic and dramatic action, which is what you'd expect in a situation like this. No flights going in and out for a period of time, but it just reminds us all, doesn't it, that the risk of COVID isn't going anywhere.
Kiowa Island in the Kaunrove is under lockdown. A meeting among members of the Kiowa Council and village elders last night determined that a total lockdown would ensure the safety of villagers from COVID-19. Vice Chair of the Kiowa Island Council, Lawrence Nicotemo, says villagers have been advised to avoid unnecessary movement.
We have given provisions to shop owners if they need to get their groceries for the supply of people on the island. These are the only people who have an access to go out to Sabu to get the necessities.
Still to come, aid reaches India as crisis worsens. And US relaxes mask requirements.
A number of restaurants in Nadi have been feeling the impacts of the COVID-19 restrictions. With dine-in services suspended, these businesses have seen a huge drop in customers over the past few days. Felipe Nacaso has more.
It's back to square one for these restaurants, which a year ago experienced the same situation when Fiji recorded its first COVID case.
Customer in the moment is 95% is cut off, but it might be 4 or 5 customers per day. So in the moment it's very bad.
Despite the restrictions in place, the businesses say they will also not close down as they understand the staff and their families rely on their income.
I'm very feeling to my workers is not working and my money will be less. What to do? I pay the rent.
However, business owners have said the health and well-being of Fijians is paramount and the restrictions put in place are necessary. The other important aspect is that owners have to adhere to the rules.
We do ask for the Care Fiji app. If they don't have a Care Fiji app, we have placed a book here so that they can write down their names and contacts and the stuffs in order if anything happens, they can be, tracked down.
Some businesses have resorted to home deliveries just to ensure they stay afloat during this crisis. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
Here the local exchange rates are set early this morning. It was a mixed day for the Fiji dollar as it fell against the Chinese yuan, the US dollar and the euro. It showed gains against our two major trade partners, Australia and New Zealand. The Sangamoli also rose against the Japanese yen and the PNG kina. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Oil dropped slightly but remained at about $62 a barrel. Gold dropped again today, closing at $1,769 per ounce, and silver closed down at $26.06 per ounce. We now join Sanifa from HFC Bank with the latest from the money market.
Good evening. The Australian dollar stands on a slippery ground against the US dollar
after Australian inflation figures disappointed traders today. Contributing to the Aussie pair's weakness could be the pessimism surrounding stimulus withdrawal and the US dollar strength. Australia's first quarter consumer price index dropped below 0.9% forecast to 0.6%. Meanwhile, the US dollar edged higher against its rivals, led by a rise in bond yields and positive economic data. Their consumer confidence and core durable goods data was well above expectations, and this shows the reopening continues to gather pace. Elsewhere, the British pound has found modest support for much of today's session as investors remain increasingly optimistic surrounding the UK's economic recovery. The euro has been mixed for much of the day as the US dollar sees a rebound while markets await the latest Federal Reserve interest rate decision later tonight. Now we will wait and see how this will affect our Fiji dollar tomorrow. That's all from HFC Bank, Vinaka.
Heavy vehicle drivers may soon access the Lambasa-Senganga Highway, with Fiji Roads Authority now clearing the Korosomo slip to make way for a single-lane access road. Fiji Roads Authority CEO Kamal Prasad says work on the new road is taking time, so they have decided to construct a single-lane access to allow heavy commercial trucks through. Only vehicles up to 10 tons can access the alternative Tambia-Nanduri coastal road due to the weight restrictions at the Langere Bridge. Prasad says surveys indicate the ground is now stable and have started work on constructing the new single-lane access. This has been done in addition to construction of the new 3-lane road in Korosomo Hill. That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, Seagrass, a champion in fighting off climate change. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Protecting our seagrass species is important as it assists in reducing the impact of global warming on our ocean. University of the South Pacific researcher Shalini Singh says Fiji's seagrass species mainly grow along the coastline and act as a buffer, lowering the strength of waves on our shoreline. Singh says with Fiji being one of the countries impacted by global warming, it's critical that we ensure the protection of seagrass species, that it is also known as a blue carbon storage.
The seagrasses are able to control this carbon and store it within themselves at a rate that is 35 times faster than tropical rainforests, which are our green carbon. So our coastal areas, our ocean, our forested environment, these are the sink where atmospheric carbon, which if remain in the atmosphere, will lead to global warming.
And as Fiji battles its second wave of COVID-19, many, including local artists, have been affected. Apakuki Nalawa, who fronts local band Inside Out, has found an innovative way to entertain the many anxious Fijians and still earn a living. Lina Rees has more.
In an effort to support his family and continue with his passion for music, Apakuki Nalawa has found a way to do this from the comfort of his own home.
You know, on the live stream, you pretty much see the mic and just my face. It was my first one. I enjoyed it because I get to reach a wider audience compared to just, minimum of 50 people at a gig.
As many struggle with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, Nalawa believes music can help people in this trying time.
Only my music, just, music in general has helped heal so many people in so many ways during this time.
The father of two says, like other businesses, local artists can use social media to grow their audience.
Don't be shy. Now's not the time to be shy and be ashamed of the talent and how how you make a living.
Nalawa says it is sad to hear that some artists are selling their instruments to support families, indicative of the hard times many are facing. Nalawa is encouraging people to continue to adhere to the health measures in place. Lena Reese, FBC News.
And today we catch up with UN Resident Coordinator Samanaka Samharasinha, who shares some of the work they are doing to assist in the fight against COVID-19.
Is the UN ready to assist the Fijian government should they put forward any request in terms of assistance towards curbing the current variant of COVID-19 we have in our community?
Unicef has been taking the lead in procuring a number of pieces of equipment. And of course, you know about the vaccines coming in through the COVAX facility.
Could you tell us the process of procuring certain equipment should the need arise in the country?
It won't take very long at all. I think that it's a question of prioritization of what's needed. We have global vendors who are supplying different types of equipment and testing kits and other such things to a number of countries, many countries around the world.
Should Fiji be expecting any other form of assistance to be arriving shortly as well?
Today we will have 4 gene expert point of care testing machines coming into Fiji. These machines can perform 4 COVID-19 tests every 45 minutes. A shipment of PPE coming in about 10 days or so.
And Jamie is here with tonight's sports report.
Thank you, Edwin, and good evening. Ahead in sports, high-level coaching staff puts trust in players. And lockdown program for Rewa. There's some more coming up. After 2 opening round losses, Tailevu is hoping players will follow the training programs being disseminated to them during this lockdown period. With all sporting events suspended due to COVID-19 restrictions, training at home is the only option for the Tailevu Ruggers. Venina Rakautonga reports.
Tailevu needs to keep its consistency if it wants its first taste of victory.
These are just training programs that we do on a daily basis, but the only difference is that it will be done on an individual basis. Each player has been given the training program that will hold them and keep them active, so no one is just staying home doing nothing.
Head coach Sarah Mayambai says being active every day is the key.
Just being active. The conditioning part is very important, and doing some body exercise which can still maintain their strength.
Manager Ipeli Sovalevu says they're putting trust in their players.
We know that even though the boys will be carrying out their training, this will definitely affect us when we resume games. But we do have hope on our boys. This is where honesty comes to play for them, to make sure they carry out the program.
It is not clear when things will return to normal, but players in the Skipper Provincial Cup are continuing with individual training. Verina Rakautonga, FBC Sports.
Suva's loss in round 1 of the Skipper Provincial Cup was a wake-up call for the side. The defending champion was beaten by Nandronga 17-25 at NZ Stadium. Manager Nemani Tuifangalele says they have learned a lot of lessons from that first game. He adds it's usually the little things that prove costly. However, they were lucky enough to improve before their second round clash with Tailevu 2 weeks ago.
We can't come on the day and try to adopt the other team's style of play. We have our own style and then we play our own game, we play our own strategy. I think that's probably the way forward now. The boys know the expectation.
Rewa football coach Roderick Singh believes this lockdown period will have a huge impact on teams when the Digicel Premier League resumes. Singh says the work done in isolation during this period will determine a lot for teams as it did last season. He adds most players tend to lose focus, which will undoubtedly impact their fitness when they get back to the fields.
Many teams or many players in this lockdown, they tend to forget about training and they do not work hard, and then the fitness level drops
the concentration level drops. But all I ask my boys is just to train and keep fit, so that whenever the training starts, we are already there. We do not need to start again from the scratch.
That's it from Sports Tonight in Weird and Wonderful. After the break, a look at how some people now prefer less human interaction. This and more coming up.
Welcome back. Occasional rain was experienced over Vanua Levu, Tavyuni and the Northern Lau Group. Cloudy conditions prevailed elsewhere. In the west, a generally cloudy day with possibility of isolated evening showers. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, most centres saw heavy cloud cover with some isolated showers. Up north, occasional rain and a few thunderstorms, rain gradually easing to showers later tonight. At sea, a strong wind warning remains in force for northern Vanua Levu waters and northern Lau waters and for the southern Lau waters. The next high tide is at 7:50 tomorrow morning, followed by low tide at 2 p.m. Sunrise will be at 6:22. Occasional rain and thunderstorms over the eastern half of Vanua Levu, Tavyuni and nearby smaller islands and the northern Lau Group tomorrow. And the further outlook is for mostly cloudy conditions with some showers expected. And in Fijian Pulse, we ask, do you know how severe the Indian variant of COVID-19 is?
I know about the COVID-19, but I don't know about the variants. What is it? I know it's a serious killer. It can contact any person if you are not safety, not wearing the mask, not wearing the hand gloves.
It's first time I saw like this. Everybody run away. We don't know what to do.
Yes, I heard it's dangerous and it's in Fiji.
We should avoid moving around and just stay home during this lockdown and support the government's efforts to protect us. Because the virus is getting more dangerous, we should protect ourselves and practice social distancing.
And recapping our main stories, 2 new cases. One needs further investigation, movement restrictions to become stringent, and Fijians urged to comply. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should face masks be made mandatory? Visit our FBC News website to answer. You can send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanta.